Welcome to the Badlands, a place I don't think I or anyone I'm going to talk to expected to be. My name is Jared, and for the last 9 months, I've been an out-of-work ad agency senior suit. My last role was the Regional Client Service Director at Grey Singapore, delivering work around Southeast Asia and India. I returned to London last year, fully imagining I'd been in another agency fairly quickly, as had been the case over the last 2 decades, but not so much this time. So I found myself wandering the Badlands. In these 9 months, I've noticed a few odd things in our industry, and I've also noticed a surprising amount of ex-colleagues and clients all in a similar position to me. So I thought it might be helpful and maybe interesting to talk to some of these people, to see how they're doing, discover their experiences, understand what they're looking for, and maybe shine a light on them and their talents, but most importantly, check in with them, as it's a lonely experience being in the Badlands. So please welcome Fi Robertson. Fi is an experienced marketing consultant, having worked client-side, and a senior business director, having worked at a number of agencies. She actually took over a role I used to have 6 months after I'd moved on. So we know and love some of the same people from that agency, all of whom will remain nameless on this chat, but you know who you are. Even with all that senior experience, both agency and client-side, she still finds herself in the Badlands. So today we'll discuss how she's doing, the highs and lows, and any positives that can come out of this time in the Badlands, and maybe sharing some tips and advice for everyone else that's in a similar position to us. So please welcome Fi Robertson. Fi, how the devil are you?
I'm good, thanks. Good. Okay. Plodding on. Although, it's a bit of a shit situation being in the Badlands and not having a
Hey.
job.
Let's not start out negative. Come on.
It's obviously not somewhere I want to be, but the sun is shining, it's summer, I'm healthy, so I just need to keep
I think
reminding myself of that.
for all the listeners, Fi's this is the first podcast I'm recording in a vest because I'm melting right now. It's amazingly beautifully hot, but my God, it's uncomfortable. And I was thinking this week, I wish I had a job for no other reason than the air conditioning in the office would be a nice place to be this week. But I guess you'd have to go on the train or the tube and stuff, which wouldn't be fun, right? So,
Yeah, the thing is about the tube is I always end up in some sweaty man's armpit, which isn't always the nicest of
exactly,
places to be at like
exactly.
8.
So I should have recorded this outside and just melted as we chatted. But as I mentioned in my intro, we actually worked at the exact same agency. You took over a role that I left. I think you took it over a few months after I'd gone. But we worked with a lot of the same people, and we love a lot of those people. And I think we should give a little shout out to little David Jenkins, who is a legend and a hero. Who he introduced us to each other, he's a great guy, and I know you have a lot of love and time for him. So thank you, Jenkins, for putting Fi and I together. So Fi,
Thanks,
I think.
Jenkins.
Yeah. Thanks, Jenkins. It better be working. It better be grafting, not listening to this. That's all I'll say. I'm sure he'll come up. I'm sure Jenkins will come up a few times in this chat.
I'm sure he will.
It's such a nice lad. So look, for people listening, why don't you give everyone a bit of a sense of your career? And as I mentioned in my intro, you've worked both client side and agency side, which is, an amazing thing and quite rare, certainly at the level at which you've done it. So I think it'd be good to give everyone a bit of a sense of where you've been and where you went, where were you at the end, and how long you've been in the shitty Badlands, although the very nice sunny Badlands at the moment.
I've had as you say, a real mix. Fortunate to work client side, agency side, in-house, creating, loads of integrated, amazing, award-winning work for brands like Lidl, National Rail, Suzuki, ITV, Tesco Mobile. As I said, the majority of my career has been spent agency side working as a suit, but there was always part of me that wanted to experience client side and other areas of advertising, I guess, beyond account management. So after the birth of my first daughter, I moved more into an ops role. I'm a bit of a self-proclaimed spreadsheet and numerical fan. Always loved processes and project sides of things. So I worked my way up to operations director. So I was in charge of sort of the operational running of the UK agency, things like resource planning, development of scope of works, retainers, bloody love a retainer, revenue forecasting and everything like that, as well as looking at how we can implement new processes and strategies for growing the agency. And I loved it. I really loved it. And I felt that's where I sort of came into my element, probably more so than when I was a suit. But I think all the time, client side was always in the back of my mind. And after many attempts at trying to cross over to the other side and numerous rejections because I didn't have client side experience to prove that I wanted to go client side. So it was, a bit of a catch-22 situation there. Some lovely people at Lidl gave me the foot in the door that I'd always wanted. And I took on a maternity leave cover in their campaigns team before working in creative operations and finishing up as a senior consultant leading on Lidl partnered with UEFA Euros. So I was working on the partnership for that. But sadly, like all good things, it came to an end in January. So I found myself in the Badlands for about 5 months now, and sadly counting. But hey ho, onwards and upwards, eh?
Well, for sure, and that's an amazing. Some amazing brands, an amazing kind of both sides of the aisle experience, which is so valuable. I think it's clearly you could going back into an agency now. You have such a unique understanding of the marketing world and the marketing team and the kind of need states. And I think it's sometimes easy to forget when you're just on one side of the aisle your entire career. This is what we do at the
Totally.
agency.
You're
It's
kind
like,
of
well, I think having a little bit of empathy and a little bit more understanding of the client's world is where you get a little bit of success. I kind of prided myself on trying to become not friends. Friends is a stupid word, but like if you can become good confidants and you can kind of understand the client's needs and kind of their business to a really deep degree, without working there, even though you have, that's when you can really start utilizing the agency's skill set of helping them solve business problems. So the fact that you've done it both, I think the
100%.
phrase is walked and chewed gum at the same time. Genius. I love that phrase. You've done both. And I think that's amazing, which is a criminal that you are in the position that you're in. It's criminal. But
It's you're so right though there, just getting under the skin of not only the brand that the client works at, but the client themselves. And I think I have so much more sort of a greater understanding of what actually the client go through and all the stresses that they have. Being agency side, and you've got an ad ready to go, and then suddenly the price changes or they don't have that product anymore, and you're like, for God's sake, why didn't you know this 3 weeks ago or whenever we
that
briefed
can't
it?
have
Like,
come
why
out
are
of the
you just
blue. Yeah,
why are you just telling me now? Or
that type of stuff was always super infuriating because I'm like, I know how slow your world is at your end, so that price change didn't happen overnight.
or
But then I think
the classic
understanding,
JFDIs.
but I think having that
The classic
understanding to
JFDIs.
then empathize and then understand that that's clearly a nightmare for them as well is where, as a good uh, client service person, you just have to go, well, look, it's not personal. Let's just figure it out, and calmer heads will prevail, and you can get shit out, regardless of the curveballs, because there's always curveballs. And I think good client servicing is handling curveballs, because it'd be boring if it was just straight and no issues throughout. So I think it's
Yeah,
a vital skill that you've clearly got, like I say, both sides of it, which I'm slightly envious of as I've gotten older. I've had to lean into much more kind of intuition and just really building friendships with my clients. I actually had lunch with an ex-client last week,
yeah,
because we'd built a solid working relationship and then became inverted commas friends outside of it. And we had lunch last week, and she's probably
oh,
listening to the podcast right now, or she better be anyway,
yeah.
and sharing it wide. So look, you've been in the Badlands 5 months now. I guess, yeah. I know from speaking to you, and I know from some of our conversations offline, you're experiencing a lot of the things that a lot of people experience. But equally, I think you understand it's a unique time and place that we're all part of at the minute, and there's a seniority to the kind of people taking the hits at the moment. I had a fascinating conversation with a very prominent person from the advertising and marketing world earlier this week, and he's going to be doing an episode with me hopefully next week, And his view was, yeah, it's been brutal. They are starting to see some change. So hanging in there is a key is a key thing to be doing at the moment. It's kind of hanging in there, and if you can go about this period with a bit of grace and kind of know that it will change, it's an important part of it. I think it's easier when it's sunny. Personally, I think it's much easier when it's sunny. It's less depressing. I got a rejection email on Monday, but it was sunny as hell. So I was a bit like, wow, well, okay, that just means I can do more gardening this week. Fine, I had to spin it slightly, but so in terms of, is there any like particular experience or unique experience or anything you want to kind of talk about from your job hunting point of view? I guess and particularly where it's been different from the past,
Mm.
where it didn't seem as long-winded or as hard to find that next thing. How have you found it, and how are you managing it from a time point of view? And you've got a couple of children, which I know is a big time suck. So how are you managing the job hunting?
Yeah, well, yeah, as you say, it's very up and down, ebbs and flows really. Some weeks, you're doing the daily scroll on LinkedIn and you find absolutely nothing. And other days you might see something that sparks interest. What I find also is you get the same bloody things coming up. They sort of come up on LinkedIn and then they get taken off and then they come up again a couple of days later. You're like, this is interesting. I should probably use different ways of finding jobs. Obviously, I'm trying to use my network as much as possible. But I mean, I've applied to probably 30 plus jobs on links
Right.
through LinkedIn, and only about 10 or 15 have come back with an offer of an interview. Most
That's
of
not
them.
bad though. That's not bad
But
stats.
it's not bad. No, it's not bad. To be
I
honest, the
know
majority.
much worse from people.
Yeah,
But
I
I
mean,
think
to be
they're
honest,
over
the majority.
applying. I think they're creating their own bad stats, because if you're just applying scattergun random because out of fear, and then I think that doesn't help. I think your approach is probably a bit more targeted.
Yeah, I guess I am being pickier in, as you say, I've got two kids and working now in central London is a bit more tricky for me given I
Right.
live further out in Surrey. So I am probably being more pinpointed in what I'm looking for. But to be honest, when I do get an interview, it's amazing. And then sometimes at the moment, the communication goes dead. I mean, I had an interview 2.5 weeks ago, and I'm still waiting for a bloody response. And it's kind of like, just tell me I'm rejected, so I can just take it off my list. And otherwise, I'm constantly thinking about it and
Yeah, yeah.
waiting for the phone to ring. And then your phone rings, and you think, oh, this is exciting. Pick it up, and it's somebody saying, "Have you had a car crash in the past 2 weeks?" Or is that or
Only
your mother? So.
only a career car crash. That's all I've had. But I do think it's worth for people listening, and I've had to go through this realization that I don't know if 2 weeks is bad. I think if you were at work and if you were working at an agency now, Fee, and I think this is not direct to you. I had to kind of think about this myself, and I think it's important for people listening to remember this. But if you were in an agency and you were trying to change jobs and you interviewed on Monday, that week goes by because you've got your full workload and you're dealing stuff with whatever agency you're working on. By the end of the second week is when you'd probably go, I haven't actually. I do it's like time moves so much slower when all you're doing is job hunting. And I think
Yeah,
I'm not defending the recruiters or the kind of in-house talent people to say that it's okay not to communicate, because it's clearly not, and it's really problematic. But I think there is you fall into the Badlands folk, we fall into this kind of expectation of, well, I spoke to you yesterday, why haven't you come back to me? Because your next day is an eternity when
yeah,
you're looking for a job. But they probably had 10 other things and 10 other roles in 10 other departments that they're dealing with. So I sound like I've got a recruiter stood next to me with a gun to my head right now. I don't. But I had to remember my previous experiences. It's, I think, trying to take a
yeah.
beat.
You're
And
right.
but then the when but like you say, a no should come quickly, because it's pretty. You've hired for teams, I've hired from teams. When you know who the person would be who's going to be a great addition, and you also know that someone's not right for no other reason than someone else may have just shined slightly, or might be in a better fit politically or for the
Yeah,
clients, or so I think trying to get all the information out, yeses and nos, is important. But I think for people in the Badlands, I think just remembering a little bit that business and life is going on for those people who are dealing with you, and no doubt it's never personal. I don't think it's a well, I'm not going to reply to Fee just to piss her off. I don't think it's that.
Yeah, no,
So
I totally get that. And I found, I think the most frustrating ones, the ones where you sort of had one recently where I applied for something, had 3 rounds of interviews, and then you find out it goes internally and you
yeah, I
get
think that's
told, oh,
criminal.
that
I
you have
don't
more
think that.
experience. You realise the experience is that you didn't work at that particular agency. You're like, well, I can't win with that one.
No, and
But
I'm
hey
pretty
ho.
sure that whenever I've hired for teams that I've been looking after, it's essentially you never put a job offer out, or there's never a thing out in the world until you've gone, well, we don't have the resource, or that we've got a staff, we've got we've got a resource crunch, so we need to bring someone else in. You never think about that until everyone internally has been exhausted. It never even becomes a thought of hiring someone from outside. But yeah, there's a lot of that, and we understand why. But yeah, I think the recruiter Rosie, who I spoke to, she made a really good point that I've since used, kind of qualifying for yourself a little bit when you are speaking to the heads of talent or whoever it is you're speaking to at an agency about a particular role. You know, ask the question: has this job been signed off monetarily? Has the internal search been exhausted? Because I understand that it can easily go internal if there's someone more suited. So I think for your own sanity, do those
Yeah,
checks yourself.
that's a
Do
really
the
good
because
point.
that's what recruiters would do on our behalf. So I think we're old enough and ugly enough to kind of do it for ourselves a little bit. So I think it's really vital for people listening just to do that. Just ask those questions, qualify it as you would any piece of new business, or ask from a client,
Yeah.
or you know, to make sure it's real, because it's so demoralizing when it's goes to the magic person who already works there. It's like,
Yeah,
well,
I
have they
guess
just
I found.
arrived? They surely they've been there for years, right? You do know them, right? There was so
I guess I've have found though that on a more positive note, I have found that more recently there's a couple of things I even applied for back in March have just come back. So either I'm very much sloppy seconds, or they're scraping the barrel, um, which might be the case, or they're just so busy that they didn't really think the role was a necessity at the start, and they tried to incorporate it into other people's roles, and they realised they couldn't. But they now are coming back, so that's a positive.
yeah, that's good. And look,
Um,
there are clearly
just come
moments
back.
throughout the year from a budgeting point of view and a client's budget's point of view and a kind of investment rounds and you know fees needing to be used up, not Fi Robertson needing to be used up, but fees, EES, fees needed to be used before the end of the year. So there are obviously peaks and troughs as we go through the year. I think we're about to hit a kind of it's summer, it's July, kind of school holidays slow down a little bit, but equally, I've started a job on the mid December before, and I've started a job in the middle of summer before. So I think there are always stuff
Yeah.
out there. So you're right, stuff will come and go as we keep going throughout this. It
God,
sounds
I tell you.
go on, sorry.
So I was going to say that when you're talking about fees, that is the problem with being called fee.
Yeah,
God, the
yeah.
amount
Oh,
of
the
times,
fees shit.
they'd be
What the
like,
fees
"We
shit?
need we
Oh.
need to talk about the fee," and I'm like, "Shit, what have I done?" And I'm like, "Oh, budget, it's all right, it's not me."
Yeah. Can we use the word
Cocked up
budget
completely.
in relation? Yeah, that's amazing. Oh, this fee is going nowhere. This fee is rubbish. Like
Yeah,
you're just taking an ego bruising all day long.
need to get rid of it. Just get rid of it.
Yeah, yeah, just forget it. This fee is piss poor. What? No, 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 no. Budget. Um, so look, you've clearly gone. You're going through the same things as everyone else, and I've started. I think I've said this numerous times now, but I am starting to see a little bit of stuff popping up here and there, and so it is about keeping going. And I know from our chats offline, you're very busy with your family, and I'm pretty sure you're a property developer on the side. Is that true? Slash baker.
Well, I
I
try to.
honestly don't know why you're
Well,
wasting your time with advertising and marketing. Like, just be a
and
just be a property
sod that.
magnate
You'll find a
slash.
baker.
You're essentially Prue Leith, and who would be a property person? I don't know, someone who develops properly.
God, that would be the dream. I remember doing when I was about 24, I did a food stylist course at Prue Leith's place in near Chiswick. God, that was delightful. I mean, if in another world, blue sky thinking what your job would be, that would probably be a food stylist or just open a bakery. That would be a real delight.
Well,
But
look,
it's
I think
always
there's something to be said for a, a positive is probably the wrong word, but what this time in the Badlands does give you, it does give you the opportunity to kind of think, the classic line from the Ferris Bueller film: if you don't stop once in a while, life's going to go by, and we've got this forced upon us in most cases. This time to kind of have a sit and reflect, and there's no reason that you couldn't be a baker. There's no reason you couldn't be a property developer. I think we all slightly get a bit conditioned into, this is what I do, this is what I've done my entire career. And I don't know, I think it's important for people listening. I'm going to try and in fact, I'm speaking to a careers coach later today. And she's made the move she was a head of strategy at various agencies and got to a certain point in her career where she's had enough of that, and she's now, pretty successful exec coach. So I'm going to talk to her about what her advice is on helping people kind of transition into things that they love doing, because, it might be that this time in the Badlands is actually because you need to look at what you want to do for the next 20, 30 years. And it might not be shifting FMCG products. It might be making them,
I think you're totally right. Like the thing is, you can't physically look at jobs or apply to jobs 24 hours a day.
No,
There's
it's
only so
boring
much
as
scrolling
fuck.
on LinkedIn. There's only so much networking. So you've got to find those other little things that you can do. Like, I mean, I did say to myself, I was like, oh, I'm going to get fit. I'm going to do couch to 5K again. I bought myself a cross trainer. I'm going to get really fit again. Cross trainers now back on Facebook. I haven't become an ultra marathon runner, but I've spent time.
Too hot.
I've spent time doing other things, and I've spent more time with my kids, which is just been really nice. After both maternity leaves, I went back to working full time, 5 days a week,
Right, right.
and I definitely feel like my relationship with them is so much better, and we're all happier, probably because we're spending more time together and more. I'm definitely more present when I'm with them as well, rather than sort of having my mind thinking, shit, I need to write that email to so and so, I need to do X, Y, and Z. So that's a real positive, and I won't get that time back. So that's, it's shit being in the Badlands, but also a nice thing in terms
Yeah,
of
no,
getting to spend time
you're
with
right. You're right.
your family and friends.
I'm so surprised you didn't say, I get more time to spend with my children. I'm not constantly seeing if David Jenkins has sent out that email that I asked him to send out, or he's done that thing that I asked. Jenkins, we're ribbing you, buddy. Because you don't have to check up on him at all. He's amazing. And will ultimately work for him one day, Fee, if we do get back into the
I
Badlands.
know.
Right?
He'll be
He's going to
MD
be,
for sure.
yeah, he could be in charge of the entire industry if he
I
wants.
always thought him he'd be a big dog.
Yeah, if he wants to be, or he could go and solve the Middle East peace crisis if he wanted. Is that smart? So I think I try and offer up tips and advice, like I know what the fuck I'm talking about. But I think some of the feedback I get from doing these, I get people emailing me on LinkedIn going, "I loved that episode. It made me feel like Christ, I'm not alone. It's not just me." And it's really important, because I think it can feel super lonely, as I've mentioned a number of times with all my guests. I know there are people listening who are in this place, and I think they find it a little bit comforting to hear some of these stories, because then you don't think it's you. Remember, it's not to take it personally, take it professionally. It just happens to be the industry we all work in. It's going through a bit of a correction at the moment. So, in terms
Well,
of
I guess that's how originally, I started chatting to you as I listened to your first one with David Burton, who worked at Tesco Mobile when I was
oh
on
yeah,
the
yeah,
account.
yeah.
And it's a shit situation for everyone, but when you realise there's other people in the situation like you, it does bring you some sort of comfort. So yeah, no, I think it's brilliant what you're doing.
Well, no. I guess from what do you have any advice to anyone listening? And it's fine if you don't, but I think because I think the conversation is full of it from you can't spend all day. searching. You've got to treat it like a task, I think, for me. And you go through that kind of panicky phase of like, fuck, I need to apply for shit. Well, it doesn't quite work like that. I think the timing of things is important to remember. And how are you kind of structuring your days? Do you have like a set time where you go, right, I'm going to do an hour of, I'm going to get the cross trainer out and I'm going to look at the jobs on LinkedIn while I'm on the cross trainer? That's how I imagine you're doing it, Fi.
Well, it's more sort of I look at the cross trainer and think I should be going on it rather than actually getting on it. I sort of sit down until the feeling passes and then I get on to doing something else.
Perfect.
No, I'm definitely like a project. Yeah, I love projects. I've always been like that. I think I get it from my father. But I always need to be doing something. So as you say, I've been sort of doing some DIY around the house, painting rooms and doing, as I say, a lot of baking, getting some cake commissions and stuff.
Amazing.
But yeah, I mean, as I say, there's only a certain amount of day you can spend doing, looking for jobs. So just do stuff you enjoy. Get out. I'm, enjoying going out on walks, listening to podcasts and music and everything like that. Seeing friends. Luckily,
Yeah, yeah.
lots of my friends are on maternity leave, so I get to see them, which I wouldn't have done before. So yeah, you've got to enjoy it. You can't just sit down feeling glum all the
No,
time.
it's hard. And the other side of it is not feeling guilty about enjoying some stuff as well. Because I went through that phase. I'm like, my wife's working so hard. And I'm like, should I be at the driving range this morning? I don't know. But it's like, well, I've looked on
What else?
the jobs forums and I've done my outreach and I've got some networking things. So I'm going to go to the driving range because I can I can do that badly instead of looking for
Because you
jobs badly, you know.
you won't have this. That's the thing. You just got to keep thinking. I'm not going to have this time again.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
enjoy it if you can.
Yeah, and it's and I think in terms of your mental health, it's it probably doesn't get spoken about enough. And I've seen some awful things cropping up on LinkedIn, and I don't know how directly the correlation is to. I know one of them was, and I don't want to talk about it beyond. I saw something, and it sounded like this person had been made redundant maybe 18 months ago, and had really struggled. Not necessarily from specifically our industry, but not a million miles off. And this person had got to a point where it had taken such a toll on them that it had become, not something they wanted to continue with, and it was such a sad thing.
Mm.
And there are people attached to this awful time that a lot of people are experiencing, and I think mental health is it's probably not thought about or spoken about enough in relation to job hunting when you've never really had to worry about it before in your career. I think you've already touched on it. It's pointless asking again, but like doing things you enjoy, going for that walk, keeping healthy, you know, uh,
Yeah.
cooking, like just random shit. Because I said to my wife the other day, I'm like, weirdly, I miss going to the same places for lunch in London because it's not like I vary it a lot. But I miss that over cooking myself the same shit for lunch all week. Like there's these weird little things that you kind of miss. But I
Yeah.
think it's important for your mind as much as your health to kind of keep yourself going and active because it takes its toll and the loneliness takes its toll. I've had one or two
It
people
does.
email me just going, it's mad just listening to you guys because I kind of miss being in the office, which is a buzz, and you know, um,
Yeah, you definitely miss that water cooler chat. I definitely do anyway. But yeah, in terms of mental health, I mean, I think we've spoken about it offline, but I sort of last year I did have a dip in terms of my mental health.
yeah,
I think I lost that sort of work home life balance, especially with my children, and so I think since then I've managed to maybe find ways to sort of cope a bit better. But it
that's
is
good.
hard, the constant rejections you get and everything, and especially when you do a couple of rounds of interviews and then get told it's a no. You do take it to heart, but at the same time you realize that there's so many people out there like
Yeah, yeah.
yourself. Everyone's super qualified to do the jobs. There's just too many people out there wanting that one thing. But yeah, you just got to brushing yourself off and dusting yourself off and getting up again.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I
It is
think
it's definitely better now. It's the weather's better as well, so you can get out when you.
it's surprising. It's surprising how
It
much
is
difference it makes.
seasonal
And
deception.
yeah, yeah. So in terms of anybody who's been a legend throughout your process, like, is there anyone you want to shout out to? Because everyone has them. I think it's. I've weirdly created this outreach program for myself. Like talking to all these people that I'm talking to is amazing. But
Yeah,
equally, it's like I kind of do it out of. I started out of boredom and just not really having adults to chat to. And then what you realize is when you're talking to someone you've got something in common, even though you don't know these people, it's nice to have this shared kind of experience. And beyond, my wife, who I shout out constantly, yeah, it's been amazing just to meet new people and speak to new people. I'm actually going to see some people in person at the Mad Fest thing, I think it's called, next week. I think it's called Mad Fest.
oh yeah.
Some marketing thing that I'm going to. And that's come through someone I spoke to on one of my episodes couldn't go. He's got a ticket. He's given me his ticket. And then there's a bunch of other people I've spoken to who happen to go into it. So, weird like networking thing that has come about just from this kind of little merry band of unhappy people that I'm speaking to at the moment. So is there anyone you'd like to give a little mention to?
um, Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I'm not a big like LinkedIn person in terms of putting out posts and something I should probably do more. But my first ever post on LinkedIn was about 5 months ago when I entered the Badlands to say, "Hi, I'm here. If anybody has a fee-shaped hole, let me know," kind of thing. So I haven't sort of been shouting out about the lack of my job, but yeah, a lot of my old little colleagues have been super supportive since I left back in January, like sharing jobs they've seen that they feel might be appropriate. And few people, even agency side as well, have reached out to say if like a friend of theirs is potentially has an opening, send across your CV, which is super kind, and it definitely helps. I think in this day and age, having people put in a good word for you. Otherwise, you just feel you're sort of entering a big black hole, never to be seen again. So yeah, I'm lucky in that respect. I've got lots of people who are championing me, which is really kind. So fingers crossed something comes up soon.
Well, I think in just to add to your lack of LinkedIn posting, you're going to be
I'm
posting
terrible at it.
something next week when we put this episode out. But you better do anyway. Um, that's all I ask of these
That'll
people.
be my second post. There we
Well,
go.
there you go. There you go. Well, that's not a bad one to have. And finally,
I know.
before we start to wrap up, like, given there's millions of people listening, and this podcast is, I'm going to have to start working out the stats, but hopefully next week I'll be able to post some good news about one of the people I've spoken to who was out of work for quite a while, has since landed a gig since doing the podcast.
Oh,
Now you can make your own theories on, was it because he did it, or I don't know. I'm not going to say. I'd quite like to be able to, but anyway. So, and there are people listening, and it's growing all the time. So I think it's worth saying, I'd love to work at dot 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 or in this particular sector or do this, outside of baking, obviously. If Prue Leith is listening, Prue, Fee would be a good addition to the Bake Off tent. She could come in and help the people who can't do it. Apart from that, like what would be an ideal job or sector or something that you'd love to do?
phew. I guess ideally, probably I'd still like to stay client side. Now I've had a taste of the dark side. It's actually the greener side for me, and it's definitely somewhere I'd like to stay. Or if I did go back agency side, definitely more on the operational side of things rather than
Right.
client servicing. But I think a big thing for me when I'm looking for jobs, I look for brands that I myself have a passion for. Something that I'd consume or I'd want to consume. That's a big thing for me when looking for a job. But yeah, not gonna lie, somewhere with probably great benefits and discounts is always great. A retailer, travel industry. I mean, who would say no to like a cheap great holiday? Um,
Exactly.
so yeah, something John Lewis partnership, Virgin Atlantic, something like that would be delightful.
Booking.com. Yeah, booking.com. That could be
Yeah,
a good one.
there
You
we
probably
go.
get good discounts.
Yeah,
Well, I
I
think
mean, it's a win.
let me check on the analytics to see if any of those people from those places are listening. But anybody who is listening who might know someone who works at any of those places, then let's share Fi's episode with them, and because I think networking out of this is a big part of it.
Yeah, massively.
Um, I
I
think
mean, this is so on me doing a podcast. So this is
well,
you
it's
push
unlike
the
me to
profile.
even start something like this, but I think I'm going to be having a
You're
conversation
doing
with
it
a
in your
person
day
next
job.
week. Oh, I'm having a conversation next week, which hopefully will come out the week after. And this guy has got this amazing kind of approach to the importance of looking after yourself as a brand, and it's really heightened at the minute given the state of the industry that we're in. And so hopefully we'll be putting out some good advice, and he's got some good kind of methods to think about how you approach your career from a longevity point of view and what you need to be doing more and more as we progress through it. And he's got some good examples of it, but networking is a part of it, but how you do it in a really tailored way for you as a person. So
I guess, yeah. And I guess finally, just, working with fun, talented, nice people. I mean, the fun and nice part is really important for me as well. Like you spend more, more time in the day with your work colleagues than you do with your friends and family. And I just, people who know me know I don't take myself too seriously and like to have a laugh and a giggle. So that's always important. Somewhere
so
fun. Somewhere I can
Jenkins
learn new things, be challenged, and have a laugh.
so essentially Jenkins needs to get you into where he's working. So you work with Jenkins again, because he's all of those things. This is turning into the David Jenkins appreciation
This is
podcast.
like I
As
Heart
a,
David Jenkins Club.
yeah, as
Bloody hell!
opposed to the Fi
Let's
Robertson
not make
needs
his
and
head
needs.
any bigger.
Well, it's impossible, right? He knows. He knows. I'm actually texting him as we speak. I just told you we're talking shit about you, buddy. Love you, dude. Well, look, I can't thank you enough for taking the time to do this. I know you should be on the cross train or you should be baking right now. So thank you so much
Cake
for
is
coming.
coming your way, I promise.
Well, and it's probably worth anybody who's working in any agency or client side at the minute. If you do need an amazing cake, you could knock them one. You could knock one up for them for you, right?
Yeah,
There must be
give me a
some
shout. I'll
party
always
that
see.
someone needs one for. But look, I can't thank you enough for taking the time, and I'm sorry we never got to work together in person, but it's
I
been
know it
great
would have been
getting to know
fun.
you a little bit over this time. And I think for people listening, look, Fee's clearly a super smart, can work both within the marketing team, head up the marketing team, or can equally run the agency's team that are dealing with the particular challenges of whatever brand that that you're working on. So she can work kind of anywhere at the minute, which is unique and great. So let's get the word out about Fi Robertson and get back in there, because someone else should be using that cross trainer. And I think the sooner she gets a job, the sooner she can shift that and give it to someone else. So Fi, thank you so much for your time. And
Cheers. Thanks so
yeah,
much, Jared.
have a great day. No problem. Thank you so much.
See you later.
Bye bye.
Bye.